Kiba and the band here on Power Breakfast. Glad you could join us this Monday. We like to start Monday off with some inspiration. So joining us once again this morning, Dr. Wale, who is a personal development consultant and strategist.
There we
Thanks
go.
does that work? I'll try something different every week until we get it right. Thanks for being here on Power Breakfast this morning. And also joining us this morning, entrepreneur Santa Joy. Thanks for being with us here on Power Breakfast. So I want to start with you. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, your age, what you do, and then we'll get into the conversation this morning. We wanted to talk about what it looks like to be an independent woman in this day and age.
Well, I'm really glad to be here, first of all. It's an honor for someone to come to try this much and actually get the world to actually appreciate you. My name is Santa Joy Njeri. I'm 20 years old. I'm a student at the university and I am a businesswoman.
Okay.
Yes, I deal mostly with perfumes and I started doing business from the age of 18. So basically I've been on the market doing, wrestling with all these giants and all these things from a young age.
What inspired you to get into business at that young age?
Well, life. You get out of high school and you're in schools with all these people who had it all together and you know where you're coming from, so you actually have to think about yourself. Because I come from a family of 4 and I'm the last one. And it was not easy because you come from the ghetto and you have to actually think about yourself and know that at the end of the day, that life out there is not just butterflies and stuff. That it's actually real out there.
Yeah.
And that you actually have to get on your feet and start working.
Right. Yes. And grappling with that reality. Dr. Wale, I want to talk a little bit about setting standards because in this day and age, a couple years ago maybe, or maybe a decade plus ago, women were encouraged to set standards, find what you're looking for in life, either in work or in a relationship. Does setting standards ever limit you though? Does it limit you into, not seeing other possibilities that are in front of you?
Well, when you set standards, you know that it's not something you're going to attain immediately. It gives you something to work towards. So you take advantage of everything at your disposal at any point in time as you move towards the standard you have set. That's why a definition of the word civilization that I really love is making the best use of resources available to you at any point in time. So yes, I set the standard of where I want to be. This is me, but I know where I am. And then there's a bridge from where I am to where I want to be. Yeah. So
it's not limiting in any way?
I don't think it's limiting. If anything, I think it stretches you, it gives you something. And I think that's the key thing. It gives you a vision. And without a vision, people perish.
Right.
It gives you something to work towards.
So let's say you have that vision and you're on the path towards getting what you want, and somebody comes along the way and says, you know what, it might take you 10 years to achieve what you want to achieve, but I can give you what you need or what you think you want overnight. We're living in the day and age of sponsors. I believe they're called blessers in South Africa.
Oh, is it? Blessers.
Right, that's what I've heard. Where sort of older men, can come in on the likes of Santa Joy and say, I see you've been struggling and I see you're working hard on your business. How about I give you this much money to stop working and stop worrying, really, and live the lifestyle that you want.
Well, seeing that I have not had any sponsors,
nor are you a sponsor.
Nor am I a sponsor. So maybe we should ask Santa, because for me, it's not just sponsors. It could be even offers for corruption.
Right.
To get involved. It's the same thing, and everything is dependent on what you have said yes to. Because if you have not said yes to, if your yes is not strong enough, your no will not be strong. I have said yes to certain things. I have been offered bad deals before. Why did I say no? It's because my yes was so strong. I've said yes to being a great father. I've said yes to being a great husband. I've said yes to being a role model and things like that. So because the yes is strong enough, then the no is easy enough. So for someone like Santa, it depends on what you have said yes to. And I think that's the key thing. We need to give them something they can say yes to. You know, because without a yes, they won't be able to say no.
Santa, I want to hear from you. You're a beautiful young woman, and I'm sure you have had offers, maybe from people who want to finance your business or, you know, just make life easier for you. And I'm sure it's happened to some of your friends in campus as well. So what has set you apart from them? What made you say, I want to go the business route, I want to work hard for what it is that I have?
I think what people need to realize that this is really a big issue. You know, people just think of it as something material, girls being material and just getting favors. But it starts from a really young age. I know that from puberty, you're on the spotlight as a girl. You know, you will have all these people who are making passes at you. And personally, for me, I had great mentors. My mom being one of them. She was one of the people who told me that I was beautiful. One of the people. And most of these girls, like my friends, the people who have had better voices from these men than voices that they've had from those who are close to them, and they don't have people who are believing in them. You see, for me, I can mostly tell like the society to not really judge these people, to be there for them. Because as girls, they're growing up, they're in campus, they don't really yet know themselves. So when they're getting a guy who is able to tell them, you know, you are very hardworking, telling them all this good stuff, and giving them favors, and they don't really know what they don't know really what is possible within themselves. And as Dr. Wale always says, if you don't know what's possible, you'll settle for anything that comes your way. So for me, I had a lot of mentors, and I also believe that vision can be imparted on you. Because my mom from the go, she was always like, you'll make it, you'll make it. So even when I was doing business and I had some setbacks, she was there to tell me, you know, you can get back on your feet. And people like Dr. Wale, who have been my mentors from a very young age, being able to tell me that you can make it. And even when these guys come along and tell you all these things, you have that strong voice from the inside that is like, no, Santa, you actually, you can do it. You don't need them. You can do it. Well,
being self-reliant, you know, is a great and a positive thing. But at some point, don't you feel like perhaps you're, you know, the weight of the world is on your shoulders? I'm doing this by myself. No one's helping me. Yes, I have the resolve to do this on my own. But what happens in that moment when you start to feel like this might be a little bit more than I bargained for?
I think we all go through that phase at one point or the other. I've been the first. Also, I had to go through that at a time when you feel the weight of everything is on your shoulders. And unfortunately, because of what I do, a lot of people, I was thinking about it the other day, I've always found myself in leadership one way or the other. So I've always been in that position where people look to me for answers. Now, that puts me in a very tough place, because when I need answers, where do I go? You know? So those weights come. I've been in a place where people will make demands on me, and I'm not able to meet those demands. But one thing that I always said to myself is, I'm not going to get upset that somebody is asking me for something I don't have. Maybe it's a way of telling me that this is where I should be. All right? So I don't see it as a negative. I actually see it as a positive. So when all those demands are on me, I'm not going to clinch at the demands. I'm going to work hard to build my capacity to make be able to handle those demands. Because at the end of the day, it's all a function of capacity. All generators produce electricity, but output is a function of capacity. In the same way, and capacity is ability to deliver. You know, so when there are demands on me in certain areas, I just need to build my ability to deliver. And that helps me. It also gives me a lot of focus. Because another thing we need to look at, let's look at these young ladies. Like Santa said, the reason I mentor people like this is because it's easier when we see a young lady who's gone astray with an older guy, to judge them. But the truth is that they have real needs. They have real needs, and somebody wants to go to school, somebody wants to do stuff, and she has real needs. She has nothing, and nobody has told her that she can make it. Nobody has told her she can have a dream, she can have a vision. Then what do we expect them to do? I am on a crusade, you know, Joy, because when I see young people being misused, when I see young people being abused, when I see young people on the streets, you know, getting into destruction of things and all that, it is a sign to me that I'm not succeeding at what I'm saying, at my crusade. Because if my crusade succeeds, then young people in this country will not have the time or the desire to get involved in destruction, the sponsors and things like that, because their vision will be so strong, and their vision will give them a hope bigger than what anyone can give them.
Right. Let's talk about vision. What is your vision in particular for where it is that you want to be with your business, where it is that you want to be, you know, in your life in several years?
Well, well, there are many visions, of course. But in terms of myself, you know, I just want to be more than, you know, what I was born for. I just want to, actually, mostly it's to inspire, because I've lost so many friends in that escapade of sponsors and stuff. And I want to be able to tell other girls that I did this and I've made it, and you can do the same thing and make it. And, you know, inspire young girls and be a mentor to them, because I've had the privilege of having mentors, but I know some of them don't have any voice telling them that, you know, you can make it. So I feel on my part, I really have to get things right. So that I can be a better person for someone else.
So even when those temptations come, you cling on to that vision. That vision is what grounds you, would you say? Right.
Yes.
Dr. Wale, where did this all come from? How did the issue of sponsors and you know, so having shortcuts become the norm? Because it in some way it is in our society.
Because society glorifies it. We don't ask questions. A lot of young people have role models today, and you see, we copy the worst of the West. You know, a lot of young people have role models who, in terms of values, their values are values that in our setting, in our culture, we would not accept. But in an attempt to look trendy, in an attempt to look, you know, we glorify those things. We talk about them, you know, and we laugh about them instead of condemning them. You know, so you have a young lady growing up, and she sees it that, you know what, so and so did that, that's how they succeeded. So and so did that, that's how they succeeded, and they have become great people today. So why not? You know, and that's why this issue, I think there are certain things that even we need to talk about at the school curriculum level. You know, good behavior, civics, things like that. We need to talk about it at that level, and we need to be vocal in criticizing when we see wrong values. Yeah, and then of course, then as we are criticizing that, we now need to amplify positive role models like you. You know, what I want, my crusade is with these young people to have a team of mentors. You know, my hands are pretty full with a lot of young people, hundreds of young people, if not thousands, you know, that I am mentoring in business and life, in different things. You know, I want to be able to have a team of mentors. You know, when you see, say, a protest in other countries, one thing, and maybe I observed this because of my background in demography, and I'm really into demographics and population dynamics. You will see a mixed group of people, old, young, male, female, you will see a mixed group because they are going out there. They have their work to do, but they have left work because of issues that concern them. So it affects the old and all that. When you look at the protests we have in this country, they are 90% or much more young people.
Right.
All right. Now, so I need people like you. I need people who we form a network of mentors, and we can help these young people. We can say, look, at 18, Santa, you are not too young to start a business, and then give them the support, you know. And she has stories. I know some businesses she started that didn't work when you were doing the video thing and all that. It didn't work. Yeah. But you see, that means at 20 now, she has stories of what did not work, how it did not work, and so on and so forth. Now, there are millions of Santas out there. So we need hundreds of thousands of mentors to help them.
Right.
Give them a new sound. At 20, she's able to support her mother. At 20, she's able to support even her brothers sometimes. At 20, she's paying her own school fees. At 20, she's living in her own house. Come on.
Wow. That is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And you should be very proud of what you've achieved. But when we talk about what an independent woman is, that's a confident woman. Do you ever feel like sometimes people might confuse it for arrogance? You know, because that's a fine line as well. You know, especially when you talk to your peers and say, you know, I have a business and I'm, supporting my family and all this. Do you ever feel that, some of them might misconstrue what you're doing for, I have it all together and you don't?
Of course, because, they are talking from a point where they don't understand. They feel like, it's all easy. But when you're telling them that, don't do that. Like when my friends, I'm very firm and confident when I tell you, don't do that. Why should you do that? I mean, get 1,000 shillings, buy something, go sell. So they're like, I should just, ask my boyfriend and ask people like that. So being termed as arrogant is not really the issue. I just want people to be able to know that this is where I stand, so that they're not falling and me just caring about them seeing me as arrogant. I want them to be able to know that this is where I stand.
There's a thin line between arrogance and confidence. Okay, let me first start. Muhammad Ali said, if you can prove it, it's not arrogance.
Good one.
But, confidence says, I am good, but I recognize the fact that you are also good.
Right.
Arrogance says, I am good, and you are nobody. So that's the difference. So we are confident people saying, you know what, we're good at what we do, but my goodness, Joy is amazing at what she does. We can learn so much. And one of the things you will see, the confident person is teachable. The arrogant person is not teachable. That's another way you look at it.
Right, that's a good distinction. One of the things I've noticed about the sponsor culture is that we've become very money driven, right? Money is the bottom line for us. It's love has been taken out of the equation for relationships and, emotional support and all of that. It's money. It's I can get this amount of money from this man or from this corrupt way of doing things. How do I do it? It's
because of the things money produces. Let me give you, and it's society. Let me give you a simple illustration. You go to maybe a mall or so, and there's no parking, okay? You have a very nice car. They'll probably tell you, come, there's parking here. You have a rickety car.
Yeah.
They'll push you out and say, you know what? Why? And that's what drives, it's because of the things money is able to provide. And it's a societal thing. It's not going to go away. So we have to live with it. And that's why we have to define our own values as individuals. And define that, look, one of the things I said to myself is, you know what? I am not going to let my identity come from outside in. I'm not going to be defined by the car I drive, by the clothes I wear. That's why I even wear things that are just I'm not going to be defined by you are wearing Gucci Grace. I'm not going to be defined by that. You know, I'm going to be defined by the content of my heart. I'm going to be defined by the content of my intellect. Yeah. That's what so I made that decision. All right. Now, when I made that decision, then I realized I did not need to wear a Gucci suit. I did not need to wear, you know, no. Everything comes from within. All right. And as I did that, I found out that people began to accept me. So I decided I'm going to dress different. Now, initially, people look, but now, every single day, I have people telling me, where do you make these things? Can I have something like this? You know, that's the way it is. So we need to, yes, it's the culture of sponsors and corruption and all that. It's because of those things that money gets. But you decide. It's a personal decision that my identity is going to come from inside. Because you know what? While you may be excited that you spent so much money to buy a particular kind of dress or whatever, you forgot that there are people that the company that makes those clothes or whatever will give as complimentary to help promote their clothes. Now, wait a minute. So the same thing that somebody is spending money they don't have to buy things they don't need to impress people they don't like. The same thing somebody is spending money on. Somebody else is being given those things and say, please wear this, it makes us look good. Right. I want to be the person that they are saying, wear this, it makes us look good.
Yeah.
You know? So, but that comes when your identity comes from inside. You need to be secure in who you are.
Yeah.
And like I've always said, people will talk bad about you. You know, now, and I've always said, you know, when the more visible you become, you know, people who don't know you will say bad things about you. The way to deal with that is that, you know what, they are saying that because they don't know me. If they knew me, they will say it different.
Right.
Now, of course, if you now begin to get upset and react to what everybody who doesn't know you has said about you, then you have reduced yourself to that level. Also, just move on. A lion does not concern itself with the opinion of the sheep.
Santa Joy, I want you to talk us through the beginnings of you as being an entrepreneur and a business person at 18 years old. Talk to us about the beginning phases. What was that like? What was your idea? So he's talking about some of the ideas that you had that failed, and I think it's always important for people to hear the failure part also. So how did it begin for you?
Well, I finished high school. You don't get pocket money anymore, so yeah, you have your needs. So I thought, you know, I love movies. Why don't I open a movie shop and a cyber? So yes, I started off with, you know, just a small amount of money, like 5,000. That was enough to get me some good stock. And of course, my mom would help me once in a while, and I would get the money. And then it just didn't work, you know. When you're young and excited about a business and the first customer you get, and you just use that money because you're like, this is money for, you know, all these things that you think are important.
Right.
But later on, when I got to engage in the zero to hero, of course, Dr. Wale was able to take me through and tell me that when you start a business, you have to know that this business is like a baby. You don't feed a baby and demand things from the baby. You have to let the baby grow. You don't, your business, you should not draw from it immediately. You should let it grow so that it's able to support itself. And that was one of the failures that I did. I was paying myself before investing in the business and expecting that, you know, that's where money was going to come for food, for all this. So that's one of the failures, but one of the good successes that I think I've had. Because I know right now, if I'm going to start something big, it's going to be something that will last.
Right. And you're able to learn from that to transition into the business that you're doing today.
Yes.
It's very hard for people once they've had a taste of corruption, a taste of a sponsor or something free that came along so quickly and you said, wow, I would have worked 6 months for that and here it is. It's so hard for that person to then turn around and say, I'm going to go back to having morals and values and a vision. So to that person, how does that transition work?
All right. You know, and it's so true what you said, because they say when a lion has tasted human blood, you have to kill it, because that's what it will always desire. And when you have had easy money come, you always look for that easy money. But one of the things that I've helped, because I have worked with even young people who have even gone further, it's no more sponsorship, it's prostitution. Anyway, I've dealt with people on that level, and you know, the question is, somebody who is making this amount of money from, say, prostitution, that's a very good example of some of the people I've had to interact with. How do you clean that person up and say, okay, you know what, stop what you're doing and all that? Well, one of the things, if you do not get their minds and their hearts to grasp it, it will not work. And so you must get their hearts and minds to grasp the fact that how sustainable is what you are doing right now. What you are doing right now, is this what you want to do? Is this how you want to be defined? 10 years from now, do you want to be defined as, you know, as this corrupt person, as this thief? Do you want your children, you know, because it's a generational thing. I don't want my children to be called the son of a thief, the daughter of a thief. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to sit down with these people and get their hearts and minds to connect with the fact that it may take a bit of time, but it is the sure way. And just like with Santa, one of the things I always tell them is that there is nothing like failure. There are outcomes. All right? So what you have done that did not work is only a failure if you accept it as a failure. It is an outcome. We have positive outcomes, we have not so positive outcomes, we have negative outcomes. When you see it as an outcome, and my philosophy has always been that success is not a destination, it is a stop or pause on the road to greater success. In the same way, negative outcomes, or what people call failure, is not a destination, it's a stop on the road to success. So success and failure are not opposite sides, they are actually on the same side. All right? Now, when I get people to understand that and say, when you take the straight road, you will have bumps. But you know what? It's like a boxing match. You do not fail because you fell to the ground. You fail because you did not get up from the ground. All right? So I'll tell people, this is the sure way. I want stories. I want to tell my grandchildren stories that will inspire them. I want to tell people stories that they are proud, that I'm proud of. All right? And that is why I will refuse to go the way of corruption.
Yeah. Santa Joy, as a young, a 20-year-old business person, I'm sure there are times that you feel like, you're climbing the stairs while everyone else is taking a lift up. But there's also a certain amount of peace or fulfillment that you find in being an entrepreneur and making your own money and being an independent woman. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what that's like.
I think, first of all, my motivation, because I've grown up in the ghetto, and most of the girls that I grew up with right now, they're mothers of 4.
Wow.
So, you just reach a point where your past is your motivation and where you're from is your motivation, so it drives me. And the fact that I can go to bed each day in my own house, debt free, and I still have my dignity. I'm not doing anything that is compromising what I stand for. I can be able to talk to my mom and know that, I'm doing the right thing. And even when, because it's business, there are good days and bad days. And even when it's not quite a day where I've gotten my targets, I'm able to just lay back and just say, I did it. It's not, it's better to fail at something than to succeed at nothing, obviously. So I sit back and I'm like, today we did this, but tomorrow we'll do it better. So you just have that satisfaction of, at the end of it all, I'm proud to say that at least I knew I did something.
Right.
And I'm not satisfying or compromising myself to satisfy anyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are just wise beyond your years. I'm thinking about where I was at 20. I was nowhere near what you've managed to achieve. So congratulations. I'm going to take final comments from you. I'm sure there's a lot of young women watching you and inspired by your story. And also maybe you can share where people can find you on social media, because you are doing business, and I'm sure this is a good platform for you to sell yourself.
Well, I think for just all those girls out there, you just need to, you might not have both parents or people who are there to mentor you, people who are able to tell you that you can do it, but people telling you, what matters at the end of the day is what you tell yourself. And you're worth a lot more than, because it's not a long term. Having a sponsor or doing those shortcuts or taking the lift up, as you're saying, it's not a long term thing. And the faster you get up there, the harder you'll fall if you didn't go the right way. So at the end of the day, you just think of yourself as an individual. We have not failed, we have learned. And you have a whole life in front of you. Just take those small steps each day, each day, each day. Because at the end of the day, I want to imagine that you want to have a daughter or a niece who look up to you, and you don't want them to do the same thing.
Right.
And for the social media, of course, you can get the perfumes at my Instagram account. That is Santa Joy, Queen Santa Joy, and queen_sense.inc. Yes, and on Facebook as Santa Joy Mas Fireflies.
Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you so much for that. I like the point that she brought up of, the higher you climb in these routes, the harder you're going to fall. And also the fact that it's so impermanent. These things of getting money overnight or getting deals overnight, at some point that sponsor is going to find somebody younger, somebody cuter, somebody whatever it is. So it's not going to last forever. Dr. Wale, final comments from you.
Well, I want to talk to young people. I think it's no secret now, I'm very passionate about young people.
Yes.
In this country. I am looking forward to a day where we can, mentor hundreds of thousands of them. But to start with, I say if you're a young person out there, you're looking for help, you're looking for someone to speak to you, check me out on Facebook, Wale Akinyemi Resource Page. You can also follow me on Twitter, and because next year on a mission to empower at least 10,000 young Kenyans. Wow. Also, maybe you're not young, you're already doing stuff. You can join me as the League of Mentors that will help mentor young kids all over this country as we launch, we take our Zero to Hero movement to a whole new level. I want young people to be snatched out of the valley of vulnerability.
Wow. Incredible work you're doing, and kudos to you on that. And I just want to say I have been reading your book, Drive, and I've been very inspired. I haven't finished it because I've had a very busy weekend, but thank you so much for that book. It's really put things in perspective for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Wale Akinyemi and Santa Joy, thank you so much for being here. I've enjoyed this morning's conversation, and I hope you have as well. We're going to have some music from Carlos Kiba before we end Power Breakfast. Of course, Citizen Extra coming up with the Supreme Court ruling that is imminent this morning. Do keep it to Citizen TV for more updates and details on that. Thank you so much for watching Power Breakfast. We'll be back on behalf of myself and Willis Abur. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more. Good morning.